Hello everyone, my name is Corazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. As you can see, we are once again back in this beautiful library. It's a little under a day later. I've already been up to take all of our junk, all of our spoils out with us. And these vessels here contain most of the books we found in the library, or the Resonance Archive, I should say. And then I've scoured the library and found a few more books to read. And I don't know how long these are, so we may or may not read all of these today. But I think what we're going to do is I want to ransack this place and just sort of get all the really cool things out that we can. And I figured we can do that with a backdrop of me reading these stories to you. And I think that's kind of a fun idea. And wow, this place is just really well crafted. I love the use of the beams here. It's really cool, and I do really enjoy these fancy carved acacia logs. They're just really cool looking. I wish we could get these. Like, wish there was a way for us to make them with, I don't know, maybe something special. Like you have to use some kind of hard to manufacture or hard to acquire resources. But that would be really cool. But yes, overall, I am really impressed with this place, and it's pretty fantastic. I have learned that you really only need to add one charcoal to the gasifier here at a time. One charcoal or one coal of any type will basically light this room for, it's something like 10 minutes, I think. So do not stick all 16 or gazillion coal that you can in here. It will eat it all up and it will burn it all at the same time, unfortunately, and leaving you with very little light. But let's... You know what, let's throw on some music on this Library Resonator. So let's see, where... I know there was a chest with a tuning cylinder in it somewhere. Upstairs, maybe? Ah, here you are. Yes, here we go. Oh, there's a book in here too. Dark Age Grey book, 2 riddles to write in. Okay, so not a lore book. Good. Alright, and let's throw this... Oh. This is a different thing. Okay. Library Resonator. The resonator hums quietly. We can search for a recent recording. You hear the soft whirring of small machinery. Then from deep within the resonator you hear an echo, growing louder and clearer. The resonator produces these disembodied sounds as if they were right in front of you. A voice whispers, "What do you reckon it's here for?" Another voice says, "Quiet, damn you. It can hear you. We'll have to find a way around." Let's search for a different recording. Silence, then the scraping of metal on stone. A clicking, rhythmic sound drawing closer and fading away. An old man's voice, somehow familiar. "Look, you see that? Rubido is not limited to gold. The principle itself scales to greater heights, depending on your tools. When flux is generated into the process instead of being the end point, what pathways could that open up? And what if we add blood to the mix? Not just any blood, of course. My own wretched blood." Let's search for more from the old alchemist. "Aren't you listening? I said there's too many missing. Sure, we were dying like mayflies, and mind you, some things are a bit hazy for me towards the end, but even so. They can't have all perished away, and they can't have all turned. I cannot be the only one. But where are they? That's what it always comes back to." You'll search for related recordings. No, they hardly know anything. Of course it pains me to see them suffer. They're like little lost children huddled in their homes. But it's for the best. It's all for the best. We had all the knowledge in the world, and worlds beyond. And what good did it do us? No. Best leave them to it. Let them think of me as some mad old sorcerer and leave me in peace. Forgive me my ramblings. I had lost hope, honestly. It became nothing more a goal to chase, to keep me sane over all these years. But here we are, and here you all are, somewhere out there. The world has changed. But if the archives still stand and you're hearing this message, well, you must already know this. Come find me, my friends. There is much to discuss. Oh. So it sounds like there's some guy we can go find. We can listen to The Alchemist again. Okay, we'll skip that. Let's search for a recent recording. Oh, I think this is the same one. Okay, quiet. Okay, so that was... Okay, back to The Alchemist. Alright. Let's search for something old. A confident voice speaks. Oh, that's right. You are new here. Well, it's not as complicated as it seems. You see, all sounds are remembered. Even this conversation now. Like memories in your head, they bounce around within the chamber. Only, our memory is flawed and fails with time. In the chamber, these sounds will never fade. And scribes like yourself can listen in and write what they hear. In this way, we have codified all of history to be accessed whenever we wish. Understandable, but no. The chamber isn't listening. It's only a receptacle. You see that little worm in the corner there? It's hearing everything we say, sending it straight to the chamber. A bit unnerving, eh? You get used to it. In desperate times like these, you never know when they might come in handy. Calling for help if something goes wrong, or at the very least helping us find out what happened later. Well, let me clarify. The sound isn't exactly written down on the cylinder. We tried that route. But the sound always got muddled. No, what these cylinders do is provide directions. Like a map, they tell the resonator exactly where to find the sound within the chamber. And with that, the resonator synchronizes with the chamber to play the sound as though it were right in front of you. No accounting for any issues with the bell's recordings, though. It's an incredible feat, no doubt that. And I'm pleased to have done my part in realizing and maintaining it, though at times I can't help but feel such monumental efforts and resources should have been used elsewhere. A second voice responds, Oh, come now. What could be more important, short of the great machine itself? Our libraries are gone, our history hoarded by nobles left to the rot. This is the last, greatest repository of knowledge in the world, and one that will be preserved for all posterity. If Falx doesn't succeed, if we don't survive this, these archives will stand tall for any who come after. The first voice. If Falx doesn't succeed? Just who do you think we're left to find this if we fail? Okay. Well, I wasn't expecting to go into story reading mode just yet, but I guess we won't be listening to any Resonance archives, and I will just have to put some music on in the background, if that is the case. Alright. Well, we have some books to read through. I'm going to just add these to our journal. We've already added the dark olive and the green books here, and I don't even recall what they were. They were the patronage of Tybalt Amaro, and we have, I think, done 2 of them. I feel like we accidentally read a 3rd book. I guess I'll find out. We have the Weight of Stone. So I'm just going to go through all of these and add them to our journal and spare your ears the giant bell ding-donging every time we add them. And then we'll sit down, we'll get cozy, maybe over here with some of these books, maybe up in one of the higher levels, and we'll sit down and tell a story. And in the meantime, I will also go and ransack the rest of the Resonance Archive for all of its secrets and its goodies. Alright folks, we are back, and I have found a little cubby back here with some burned down candles we might be able to relight with a bit of luck, and just a nice little cozy corner for us to sit and enjoy our books. So, I have screenshotted all of the journal lore pieces, but sit back, relax, and enjoy the clearing out of the Resonance Archives while I regale you with tales of the distant past. I'm also seeing a crack in my armor that needs to be repaired when we get home. Good thing we have tons of iron. Alright, let's get started with these stories. Our first tale is The Patronage of Tybalt Amaro. It came in 5 books. Hail! Ridiculous. No. Hark! I am Tybalt Amaro, cousin to the king and 3rd Viscount of... no, I suppose I should just speak plainly. I made a purchase yesterday, a rather peculiar one. Having just returned from my cousin the king's residence and seeing one of these bells, as they are called, though I myself have no idea why, nothing bell-like about them at all. Akin to a snake, more like. I am a God-fearing man and find this form unnerving. Curious that our church, so eager to lambast every drunkard and enjoyer of the carnal pleasures, remains largely mum on these. Truly. Where was I? My cousin the king swears by this contraption, and it cost me a pretty penny, but soon, I hear it said, no noble house shall be without one. I wonder what other such inventive tools there are, and what their use might be. On the way back to my estate, I heard word of a traveling alchemist from the Orient, and decided to invite him here with this cart of curiosities. Provided he shows, I might host him for a while, though, frankly, he'd do well to entertain me. We shall see how he fares. Ah, my throat is dry. I suppose that's enough for now. How do you make this thing inert? Shuffling, followed by scratching, followed by clanking until a sudden thud. Then silence. Yes, so, I shall now speak. Ahem. I am becoming accustomed to the appearance of this device, though it has been some days since I have used it last. Some malfunction, the crooked merchant's oversight, I am sure, had it just standing there, waiting for the man to arrive and repair it. It better work fine now, or my cousin the king will learn of this. I have mentioned before an inventor, a man by the name of Dastan. Wherefrom he hails and why he uses only his first name he does not say. A quiet, small man, unassuming and humble. Ugh, God almighty, such a bore. In my sudden fascination with these mechanical toys, I have assumed that inventors are universally bright and intriguing, but no. This Dastan fellow has brought with him trinkets and baubles aplenty, but nothing to truly inspire. A ball that gyrates in the air when spun, a parlor trick, appropriate amusement for a child perhaps, but nothing more. A short reed, through which wine can be poured and which supposedly makes it more palatable, though I tasted no difference. A spice grinder in the shape of some exotic hulking beast. The rest are too uninspiring to even remark upon. I shall give him a day or two more, perhaps, to present something from that rickety cart of his to truly put a spark in my eye, or else my hospitality will come to an end. I have no patience for charlatans. The nobleman's voice is excited, the change in tone obvious in his comparison to the previous entries. I had started this day resolved to run the inventor out, but he has finally pulled through. I heard him working on something in the stables overnight. The man looked like he hadn't slept at all when I approached. It was the most peculiar thing. Wings crafted out of thick fabric and spread over scaffolding, the likes of which I have never seen. To think he kept them under covers for all that time. They are not ready, and need to undergo trials, he said. Come now, says I. The sky is clear, and you surely have faith in your craft. Cruel, perhaps, but the gambit was well worth it. Dastan took the contraption to a nearby hill and rode down it like he would a cart. It seemed he would crash on the bottom, but something miraculous started happening in front of our eyes. The invention started lifting, and then sprung into the air. At first I thought it a mere illusion, a trick, but no. He circled the hill and came to a stop at its feet, shaking and pallid as a man not long for this world, but intact. I have fed him, let him rest, and summoned him to my study, where he has just now left. Tomorrow I shall try out his contraption. Dastan was trying to object, but he relented after I offered my price. Truly, wealth can open many doors, and I am fortunate to possess enough to afford such a bargain. Tomorrow, God willing, the name Amaro shall go down in history as the first man to have taken flight. My cousin shall be so envious. The nobleman's voice breaks before he can utter a word, and sobbing can be heard for a few long moments before he composes himself to speak clearly. Words escape me. There is truly no way I can describe the wonder. The wind in my face, soaring above the ground, seeing the world as I have never seen it before. Dastan. A genius, a visionary, blessed by God. For how else to explain his talent? Today he is resting in my best guest chamber, my servants catering to all his needs, no expense spared. Tomorrow we shall speak of many things. My skull feels close to bursting with all the thoughts of what could be achieved with this invention. And now that I have tasted flight, I can scarcely stop thinking about doing it again. This next is a recording or a transcription of a conversation between Amaro and Dastan. Amaro. I should very much like to have this recorded for posterity. All chronicles shall remember this day, Dastan. Dastan. As my lord pleases, though I must state again that the endeavor will be challenging. Amaro. Nonsense. What you have managed once, you shall do again, and faster this time with my funds at your disposal. Together we shall share the gift of flight with kingdoms far and wide. Your name shall be as widespread as that of Falx, and with good reason. Dastan. I am humbled, my lord. Amaro. Enough coyness. Those who listen to this recording shall know the names of both Dastan, the inventor, and Tybalt Amaro, his patron. But tell me, friend, have you thought about what I asked? Dastan. Yes, I have. Amaro. Well then, let's hear it. Dastan. Farah, my lord. Amaro. Farah. An odd word. What is its meaning? Silence for a few short moments. Amaro. Fitting. Truly. Very well then. I proclaim that we shall build a workshop on my lands, and in that workshop we shall construct Dastan's wings of Farah. We shall make them available to all in time, so that none of those made in God's image shall be without the joy of flight. This I solemnly swear. Dastan. Inshallah. Postscriptum. I have so far found no more concrete mentions of either Tybalt Amaro, Dastan, or the wings of Farah, though some fragmented records exist to suggest the existence of mechanical wings of some description. It is unclear how many were made, or how many survived intact into our dark era. Of note, a children's story heard by one of our brothers offers an interesting detail, as it concerns a flying bear. The Amaro family crest was a brown bear standing on its hind legs. Pure coincidence, perhaps, but I have recorded it herein as a curiosity. Our next reading is from The Weight of Stone. This has 17 pages. It was contained in 9 books. Stationary. Long-term recording. Place of origin. Unknown. State. Background noise. Technical issues. Quote, "And this one is for you, my lovely niece." What is it? It's heavy. And clinking. Well, why don't you open it, hmm? Are they stones? You sound so disappointed. What's so bad about stones, little Emily? But there's stones everywhere. Indeed there are, but these here are special. Special stones? Marbles. Worked on them myself, see? All round and smooth and easy in the hand. So they're round stones, but still stones. Aish, aren't you impatient today? Look here, let me show you. You put one down like this, see? And then you take the others and try to... Aha! Almost hit it. Want to give it a try? It looks easy. Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Want to make a bet with your uncle? Mama said you shouldn't gamble. Right, your mother is absolutely right. Well then, I guess, then I'll take these here back and search for a better gift for a little girl. Give them here. You gifted them, so they're mine now. But you didn't want them, did you? No, I want them. You can't catch me, so you can take them back. Hoy, no running! Wait, if your mother sees you... And off she goes. Little whirlwind. Oi, Bert! You're finally out of the tunnels. Was that your niece? Sure was. The girl grows like a water root. Almost didn't recognize her. How's it been up here? Any news? Merchant's been scarce. Last shipment of oil and coal was late, but they still take the ores if it was their bloody right. Shush, Hal, not so loud. You know damn well it is their right, and we should be proud to procure the ore they use in the main city. I tell you, our ores would mix the crawlers and even your lanterns. But it wouldn't hurt them to show some appreciation now, would it? We've all got our packs to carry down here. And it's not like up top was any better, now was it? Right. You're right. Just being uneasy is all. But as long as the tunnels don't run out, they'll have a need for us. Right. Right, as long as there's ore. Bertram, you're back. Emilia came running just a moment ago. Said you gifted her stones and wanted to bet on them, of all things. Miriam, your little whirlwind was fast on her legs, isn't she? And got a loose tongue, that girl. Don't you entice my kids to any shady deals, you hear me? It's bad enough I have to tell her father off each time. You brothers, I should never marry a miner. Ah, Miriam, don't be like that. There's nothing but miners in this town anyways. And you have the gall to sound so proud about it. Tell me, how's the tunnels these days? Your brother comes back every day with dust stuck everywhere. I'll give up washing his clothes soon. The tunnels. Huh. Low voice is fading away. I won't lie to you, Miriam. Seen better days, but surely. Some entries are unreadable. The text covered with blotches and stains. 6th right tunnel is barren. What about the 3rd? Traces remaining. We sent Bert and his men a day ago. He should be back soon. If there's no ore to be found there either, nothing to do about it. We can go deeper. You think I haven't thought of that? But the men are uneasy, and I get where they're coming from. The air down there is stale and thin. But you tested the depths. The lamp kept burning even down there, didn't it? So far it kept burning, but if we can avoid it... Hush, someone's coming. Half a page seems to be ripped out, with uneven edges. Oh my god. Are they alright? What happened? Is that Bertram? Someone, call the Greys! The tunnels. Down there, if the supports failed. That's why we needed that bell down there. Hey man, are you alright? Can you hear me? What? I can't. Be quiet, you lot. I can't hear him. Verdammt. Where? Are the rest of you still down here? We need to assemble a search party right away. They went down the 3rd tunnel. If we hear, we might still... 2 days ago. But we can't just... Someone get him some water and call... The rest of the conversation is lost. Despite repeated listening, the quality of the recording and overlapping voice lines made a complete transcription impossible. What do you mean you have to raise the prices? Again? Didn't you sell these to me for half the price just last time? Sure did. Can't anymore. That's all you have to say? Look here, Halford. I have to feed myself too. You know how hard it is to get fresh food these days. It's not like it grows on stones. But... Take it or leave it, Hal. Fine. Mama? Yes, my darling, what is it? Will Uncle Bert be alright? Of course, sweetheart. He's big and strong, isn't he? Just like your father. You know how the miners are. Yes, all miners are strong like oxhen. Oxen, my dear. Did old Bergman talk to you about the above again? That woman has too much time on her hands. She told me that we're special. We're strong and the dark won't scare us none. No fear, because we miners were always down here. No fear. Well, I guess my little wildling isn't scared of anything anymore, huh? You really do take after your father and uncle both. Yes, I'll be big and strong like Uncle Bert one day. Just you wait, Mama. Sometimes I wish your father had a bit more fear in him. Or some thoughts left for his family waiting at home for him. But Mama, you were the one who chased him out with a broom last time. And he earned that scolding. Now come along. Your uncle's waiting for that medicine you're carrying. That poor family. It wasn't enough for Bertram to come back in that state. Not even his brother. Heard Miriam cry all night. What about the daughter? They say he went too deep. Not enough air. Hush, they're carrying the body out. From the stone we make our living, and to the stone will we return. Following is one of the only complete records of a tunnel burial, a local tradition observed in the rural mining settlements, cross-referencing with the documentation provided in A Miner's Guide to the Depths. This is the last one. I won't be coming back, Hal. You're on your own from now on. I see. I guess it's goodbye then. I'm sorry. No. You have to feed your own too, right? It's not profitable to come out here anymore. They're rationing even the mushrooms now. And there's no more trade happening either. Right, so... no more haggling over your wares, eh? Yeah, alright, I guess. Are you sure you want to stay? Why not pack up and come back with me? No, I can't. There's still the mine, isn't there? And the kids are still here, too. The Greys and the Pebbles. Even old Hag Bergman is still here. All the good it does us. Hal, about that mine shaft. No, never mind. It's too late now, isn't it? They haven't told us to stop. I see. Right, well, I don't want to keep you. Off you go, yes? Say hello and goodbye to your wife as well. Goodbye, Hal. That was all the weight of stone. It seemed like they were mostly transcripted recordings of something. And next up we have the Admirer of the Miller. The pond. What could have been if this chaos had not come between us? I can't stop thinking about him. It grieves me, drives me mad. All I can do now is write down these memories and draw what I remember with charcoal from the dying fire. I remember the first time I saw him vividly, since it was such an unusually beautiful and peaceful day. The harvest of rye had begun, but I snuck away early that day from the workers to enjoy the still summer evening out in the forest. Leaves rustled softly as I walked, and small twigs cracked under my feet. Bushes and ferns brushed against my legs and arms. I reached a glade with fallen trees and pools of water. I made myself comfortable, laying on top of a few moss-covered rocks. The surface was dry and soft, and the cranberries were blooming all over, buzzing with life. Looking up between the treetops, I saw the partly cloudy sky. I would do anything to go back to that moment. Feeling drowsy from the sweet, warm air, I closed my eyes and I just listened. I heard crows scrambling around in the trees, and small bits of branches splashed down into the water beneath. Bees were humming to and fro close by my face. A fox barked in the distance. Footsteps, branches snapping and brushing vegetation. The sound stirred me from the haze. I thought it was a deer. It was very faint, but getting closer. I looked up and saw a tall man slowly walking towards the bigger pond in the glade. He sat himself down on an old log right by the water. He sat very still, as did I, and just looked at the water and the bugs that were dancing there. He was fair and had light, long hair with wavy locks. His gaze was cold, but at the same time gentle and at ease. By the look of his rugged hands, strong shoulders, and patched linen clothes, he was a hard-working man. He leaned forward and picked something from the ground. He looked at his find and pulled a string from his pocket. After a brief moment of tinkering, he seemed to have made a necklace that he strung around his neck. A gentle smile spread across his face as he held the adornment piece in his hand, admiring his simple creation. I was careful to stay still, not making my presence known. I did not want to disrupt the stillness with my awkwardness, and at the same time, I could not take my eyes off of him. He brought out a piece of folded, yellowed parchment of his belt bag that he proceeded to scribble on, pausing every now and then, looking up, his thoughts seemingly far away. Carefully he put away the parchment and got down on his knees by the clear forest pool and cupped his hands. He took a sip and then splashed his face, making his short beard glitter with water drops. He removed the necklace he had made and hung it on a thin-leafed branch, looked out over the pond one last time, and then contentedly walked away through the brush. Of course, I was curious and walked over to the place he had been and inspected the necklace he had made. It was made out of a large acorn from one of the nearby oak trees. If I had only the bravery to get up and greet him that first time I saw him. But who was I, a shy cow farmer's daughter, to do that? The carriage. As the harvest season went by and autumn was reaching its end, I sometimes went back to the ponds in the forest where I had first seen that mysterious man. I had not seen him before in my village, nor could I remember seeing him in the neighboring village either. It was like he had appeared out of nowhere, and I couldn't stop thinking about him, to the point where it almost hurt. The acorn necklace still hung there, untouched. The summer green color of the seed was gone, and it had turned into a shiny bronze. At some point I realized that he probably wouldn't come back for it, so I took it and put it around my neck. I felt silly, but it was pretty, in a childish and playful way. My life on the farm got more busy and rough as the winter approached. The cows needed to be fed several times a day, as well as the morning and evening milking. The water in their troughs froze, and firewood in our cottage was running low. When the winds were just about to turn freezing and snow was in the air, I brought with me my little wooden cart to the nearby spruce forest to gather some firewood logs to take home and cut. As I was struggling with the frozen logs, a small horse wagon, loaded with sacks and covered from the snow, came rolling on the muddy forest path. The driver had a thick cloak with a hood covering half his face. The gray, heavy mare was trotting energetically, but slowed down to a walk at the light tug of the driver's hands on the reins. The snow was starting to come down heavy, and my clothes were by now all covered in white. The driver stepped off the wagon and put up a hand in the air as a greeting. I hesitantly waved back. He pulled out a thick blanket and threw it over his horse. He stroked the old gray mare between the ears, and she snorted content. The driver turned to me. "Do you need cover from the storm, lass?" he said in a concerned manner. "If you need help, that is." "That necklace." He paused. When I realized, my cheeks blushed and I cursed myself that I still had it. Although now I am very glad I kept it. I stammered, I found it by the ponds in the forest," he said slowly and looked curiously at me. I actually saw you there," I quickly confessed. "And I started fiddling with the knot of the necklace." He put up his hand in the air to stop me before I could take it off. "Please, keep it." He laughed heartily and gently pet Dapples, who was standing half asleep. "Now, where to? Let me drive you. The storm doesn't seem to be letting up." He backed up his horse and hopped out of the wagon. "That's very kind, but I need to bring the firewood home," I excused myself. Dapples might be an old mare, but she doesn't mind a little bit of extra cargo. The miller winked and refastened Dapples to the wagon and proceeded to load the firewood. I felt a bit overwhelmed by his kindness and quickly sprung to my feet to help him, saying thank you again and again. We got into the carriage, our clothes completely covered in snow. The miller asked his horse to move forward in a slow trot. Despite the cold, I found the wintry landscape delightful. The snowflakes tickling the skin of my face and the fresh bite in the air. Come to think of it, it is probably winter on the surface now. If only there was a way to feel the snow again. I had a piece of parchment in the pocket of my skirt, which I used to make a sketch of Dapples trotting through the snow. The miller glanced at the paper, and I shyly showed him the drawing. His eyes brightened. Beautiful. In a way, it's like a poem without words, isn't it? I used to write poems. He slowed down Dapples at a sharp turn in the road. I saw you writing something when I saw you there at the pond, I remarked, folding the parchment again and then pulling the cloak tighter around me. That was the first time I wrote after many years of not writing at all. He noticed the curious spark in my eyes. I know what you're thinking. It has been a long time since I wrote something worth reading. I could not bore you with my nonsense. He seemed a bit embarrassed, so I left it at that. Perhaps he had never shared these things with anyone else before. If you say so. Another time, then. We briefly looked at each other, smiling shyly. We rode off down the road as the snowstorm seemed to be waning. My skin was cold, but I felt warm on the inside all the way home. His presence made me feel so comfortable and safe in a way that I had not felt before. The mill. In early spring, when it was almost time to sow the rye, I was herding my family's 3 cows through the woods of the neighboring town. I had my cowherd staff guiding them through the trees, letting them eat off the sparse sprouting grass that was growing there. I stood, leaning on my staff, looking out over the town below, seeing the townsfolk going about their business. Smoke was rising from the cottages, the sweet smell of fresh bread wafted through the air, and the white sails of the mill were cheerfully spinning in the bright sky. From a distance I saw the miller carrying sacks of grain from a wagon into the mill. He was moving vigorously, not stopping to take a break. He greeted some of the townsfolk on their way into town, and then moved the horse and cart out of the way before he disappeared into the mill. I was awoken from my daydream, hearing the cows from a distance. The 3 of them were heading out on the fields. With hurried steps, I went out after them, but alas, they were full of spring energy and cheekiness and just kept running ahead of me. Remembering this now, as I sit here in the cold mountain, I realized how much I really loved those animals, even when they were that naughty. They were stopped by a ditch between the mill and the field, and I finally got to them. I got in between them and tried to turn them, but ended up startling them. One by one, they scrambled down and through the ditch to the other side, pushing me off balance and shoving me into the mud. I can still remember the taste and the awful feeling of my feet sinking. I saw the cheeky heifers running, skipping and leaping along, headed to the bright green sun-kissed grass on the hill by the mill. Desperately I tried to group them together, but at this point they were all way too mischievous. They ended up scattering, one of them stomping in through the door of the mill. I was staring in disbelief. There was a commotion, the sound of crashing wood, and a cloud of flour flying out the door, quickly followed by a ghostly-looking cow covered in white flour, bellowing and coughing. Out from the settling flour stumbled the miller with a wooden shovel in hand, and dusty sleeves rolled up to the elbows, swearing, "Damned cow! Where did you come from? Shoo!" He hesitated when he noticed me and looked me up and down. "Please, herd your animals somewhere not near the mill. They got away and—" I started, flustered. He chuckled and raised an eyebrow when he recognized me. "So, you're having a bad day as well, cowherdess?" He laughed and brushed the flour off his chest. "Last time we went in a snowstorm. Now you brought cow mayhem and took a mud bath." He put the small wooden shovel on his shoulder. "Your 4-legged friend here knocked down 2 sacks of spelt flour and knocked the lever from the wooden axle. Jammed it completely." The sails of the mill made a pleasant, low, muffled sound as we stood looking at each other. I need not to say that I was beyond embarrassed at that point, just hopelessly standing there, messy, cold, and without cows. But his smile comforted me and ensured that he wasn't too mad. "The mill will be fine. The brakes are on. Let me help you gather your wild animals." He looked slightly amused as he grabbed a rope from the wall in the mill. We managed to gather the cows in the horse pasture nearby. He noticed I was shivering from the cold, wet clothes I was wearing, so he brought me inside the sparsely lit mill. It was quite loud inside from the wooden machinery still spinning. "We had dairy cows when I was little," he mentioned, looking at me, understanding. "They always got into trouble. Can't live with them, and can't live without them." He put his thick woolen mantle around my shoulders when I sat down. It was still warm from his body. The hood was too big and messed up my hair. He lightly brushed a lock out of my eyes. He grabbed a wooden hammer and started working on the dislocated machinery. I kept stealing glances at him as he worked. "You're staring." he mumbled, looking back at me. Come help me instead. We managed to get the mill's machinery in working order again, and the miller declared he needed a drink. He proudly brought out a jug of his home-brewed miller's mead that we shared. It was delicious, a taste of honey, hops, grain, and spices, fit for a noble. Sadly, I doubt I'll ever get to taste it again. The alcohol soon turned our slightly awkward talk into soft-hearted banter. I asked him about his poems that he had mentioned in our last encounter, and after much persuasion, he brought out a couple that he had written. A slight bit of nervousness showed in his eyes when he told me that no one else had heard them before, and he ran his hand through his hair several times as he started reading out loud. I like how they describe little details in life in such a simple, beautiful way, I said as he took a brief pause. He seemed relieved to hear this and regained his courage to keep reciting. You might recognize this one, he said softly, looking at me and shared his words as he memorized. Acorn on a string. Isn't it a delightful thing? A great oak tree born from a small seed, growing slowly but steadily, silently saying, this is but all I need. I carry this one acorn with me. It reminds me of what small things hold, and thus it makes me stronger and bold. I brought out the acorn that was still hanging around my neck. The miller nodded silently. I would like to see you again soon. There are so many odd rumors going on out in the villages, he said, and pulled me into a light, warm hug. And I really don't mind taking care of you, Cowherdess. I'm sure they're just rumors, I said, blushing. And oh, how wrong I was saying that. That sunny spring day was the last time I ever saw the miller. Only a week after we had met in the mill, the gathering and evacuation of villagers and townsfolk started. I so dearly hope that the miller is in a safe shelter like I am, so that we might have a chance of finding each other again when this is all over, if ever. I still have that acorn hanging close to my heart. It reminds me of what I have lost, but it also gives me hope, however slight it may be. That was Admirer of the Miller. Our last reading is 15 pages long. It is called The Spy and the Sparrow. It appears to be a series of letters from probably a spy, or maybe a sparrow, to the spy. My Honorable Lord. Successfully recruited. Had to prove intentions. Apologies to Baron Tassi for disturbing his sleep and the stolen chamber pot. Crude sense of humor. Grew by joining this chapter of bigger organization. Intentions unclear, but much talk of self-sufficiency. Made up of both men and women. Peasantry foremost, some craftsmen, a cobbler, 2 carpenters, a servant. Just under 24 souls. None can read or write, I think, but I shall keep vigilant. Will ingratiate myself with them and keep gathering observations. Await further missives. My Honorable Lord. Confirmed suspicions. Heard boasts of loot from the raid on your lordship's holdings, and Viscount Cardoso's ale stores. Bandits work together with another group. Spoken of as friends, not competitors. Likely another chapter. Targets for attacks decided based on current needs. Medicinal supplies right now. Advises and word to all at risk. Recruitment seems to be regular, but not codified, though generally proof of worth expected. Obtaining a noble's belonging or acquiring a small amount of supplies through some swindle seems a common story. No suspicion of ill intentions after a newcomer is welcomed, confirming your lordship's assumptions. These are not sophisticated folk. Meeting place determined by a method I am not yet privy to, but I aim to learn. Await further missives. Have drawn suspicion from Florin. Harak subject. Smithy. Advise capture or slay when next seen. Balding, black beard, sheared. Stout of posture, but walks hunched. Next raid, Lord Cardoso's livestock. A rat supposed to open the way, but no violence planned. Is anybody else getting a Morden from Mass Effect 2 feeling from this writing? I sure am. My Honorable Lord, I beg of you to accept my apologies for the tone of my previous missive. Being under scrutiny, I had to be brief and omit the proper language expected by your lordship. Allowed to write the current missive in comfort. Resting after thwarted raid. Florin dead at putrefaction from arrow wound. My compliments to Lord Harak's archers. Group is currently hiding within the capillaries. Advise restraint and retaliation, reasoning as follows. Helped escape wounded lad by name of Antek from under Lord Harak's outriders, impressing others. I implore your lordship and allies to grant time until my next missive. Will attempt to garner authority before a larger meeting of the groups, supposed to take place within the month. With luck, I may be able to deliver your lordships more than just foot soldiers. My Honorable Lord, My sincere thanks for your generous and wise decision to abstain from violence against the bandits. I realize the ancient attacks have been a nuisance, but my plan is bearing fruit. My contribution to the raids has been noted. My apologies to the guard of Viscount Carduce's estate. I pray his knee heals well, and my reputation among the group is now well established. I have been informed that the chapter has been noted by a certain sparrow. Unsure as of yet if this is a nom de guerre or a title, but I've heard it often lately. Tomorrow we are to join a meeting which addresses the current makeup of the group and its priorities. I will send another missive as soon as I am able to do so in less plentiful company. My lord, apologies for such a long pause in my missives, but I have hardly had the opportunity to write. New additions to the group include a scribe and an escaped nun. I would rather not take unnecessary risks, as both are ardently devoted to the cause. Meeting with Sparrow was akin to a rowdy commoner's moot, with ale, food, and merriment aplenty. A treat for my chapter at least, as we were struggling with supplies in recent weeks. Did not manage to get a closer look at Sparrow, but heard her speak. A woman of strong build, perhaps a mason or otherwise a physical worker, with a loud voice and much of a following within the ranks. Many issues raised, among them supposed attention paid to the flock, a moniker now also adopted by my compatriots, by the blackguards, broad goals for the coming months, many harsh comments on life in the tunnels. Heard many stories, most find many listeners nodding their heads in agreement. Surprised by the group's steadfastness, despite coming from many backgrounds and speaking different tongues. Their spirit will be hard to subdue anew. Shall write again soon. Details of new targets are expected to come down from Sparrow within the next few days. My lord, I hope this message reaches you swiftly. The next planned attack targets your lordship's estate with the goal of procuring valuables from their storage of the stout holds. I have offered that due to some of the goods held there being connected to Falx's project, there is a risk of blackguard retribution, but to no avail. Sparrow seems to have reassured all involved that the raid will focus on precision so that doesn't happen. Myself and Antec have been chosen to spearpoint the raid. My lordship, I once again humbly request your restraint. The raid needs to achieve at least partial success, as all involved are said to expect an audience with Sparrow. This is my chance to speak to her alone, and relay all I learned to your lordship and allies. Myself and Antec will wear red scarves around our heads. I am fairly certain that no one else shall use such a distinctive piece of garb. I entreat your lordship to instruct the guard to let us two roam unchallenged, and I pledge to only take as much as is deemed necessary to impress the group and Sparrow. I write to you distraught and disconcerted. Antec is dead. The young lad stabbed through the throat, giving his last breath in the interest of the cause. My cause. Have I not made it clear we would be distinctly dressed? Have I not made clear my wish that the boy be unharmed? The letter I passed has been read. I know this as one of the guards, seeing me approaching, laid down his arms and pointed me to the meager trove set aside for me to slip away with. Why then, pray, has the same approach not been extended to Antec just moments before? My lord, I realize the tone of this letter may be inappropriate. You should, however, know my disappointment. The lad had promise, and was crucial for building my good standing among the flock. I am now bereft not just a compatriot, but a valuable asset. I have been invited to meet Sparrow. Expect my next missive soon after. Sparrow knows. Has seen through my ploy, I am certain. Writing in haste, being watched. Next attack, Baron Tassie's weekly convoy. Sparrow leads. Plan to surrender to guards, red sash across tunic. Capture and deliver to your lordships for details on Flock and Sparrow. To whoever reads this, should have seen your guard, stupid gobs, when Emmerich, or whatever his name really was, fell over with a bolt through his head. Bastard thought he was so smart, but not smart enough to cover his tracks. The one who forwarded his messages to you has been warned. For her sake, let this be the last one she delivers. You must think of us as simpletons who can't recognize a double-crossing a rat when they see one. If there are more, I will know. And when I do, a quick execution will be the best they can count on. We are not cruel, but can be, if that is the only thing you lord understand. How many of your people have we killed over the last months? A handful, perhaps. Accidents happen. More of your servants, subjects, even guards have joined our ranks when they understood the truth. We do not need you. There are no fields to till in this darkness, no castles to impress from a distance, no authority you hold that cannot be challenged. Why would we serve those who have naught to offer but endless toil in the expectation to have their boots licked? The flock offers every man and woman a way to take their lives in their own hands. If they serve, then only because they wish to, not because they are forced to. In all of us, though we come from disparate places and are not all peasants nor burghers nor soldiers, this universal truth we understand well. Our fate is our own to forge, and we do not need approval, from God Almighty perhaps, but not from the likes of you. When we establish ourselves and make ourselves known to all, we shall perhaps approach you to deal as equals. Until then, do not cross us, or it might be you lying on the ground with a bolt in your skull. And that was The Spy and the Sparrow, the last of the 4 pieces, sort of collections of stories, I should say, that we found down here in the Resonance Archive. But I think it is soon time for us to head home, because we have fields that probably need some tending. We might have some more flax here soon coming in. I hope you enjoyed this reading of all of the stories we found here in the Resonance Archive. I do plan on bringing all of our books back with us, so I might make several trips home with all of our stuff. But hopefully we should get all that back, along with all this, well, I call it junk, but it really is treasure. This is really cool stuff to have, and I'm excited to put it places in our house. We'll have to, I don't know, that library I have planned is kind of small for all this stuff. Maybe we'll have to have some kind of larger sort of showcase room or something. But anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the adventure through the Resonance Archives in the previous 2 episodes, and I hope you enjoy the reading of the lore in this one. In the coming episodes, look forward to returning home, getting some chores done, and then I actually have a bit of an adventure planned for probably this winter. So let's get some more work done on the house, or the hobbit hole, and maybe fill out some more of the windmill sails, and maybe even fix up some of the gear that we've got in case any of it can be fixed. And then we'll see where we go from there. As always, my name has been Corazar. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.